Dear Junko Chano-san, Executive Director, the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and my respected colleagues from India, and my respected sisters and brothers of Japan, I bring greetings from the people of Himalayas to the people of Mount Fuji-san. Namaste. It's a great honor and a great privilege to be speaking and sharing my views on energy, especially after my respected Prime Minister Narendra Modi-san had visited Tokyo and had a wonderful and successful summit with Prime Minister Abe-san. To begin with, I must recite a few lines of my ancient scripture which prays for the good of all beyond boundaries, beyond the differences of caste, creed, religion, and area. And it says in Sanskrit, Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, Sarve santu niramaya, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. It means, let everyone experience happiness and joy. Let everyone on this planet never ever have any kind of agony, ailment, or sickness. Let everyone on this earth have always be feeling happy and seeing the good things in life, seeing the beautiful things in life, and never ever have to face any moment of pain or agony. This was the prayer my ancestors wrote thousands of years before for the entire universe. For me, this forms the basis of energy distribution for the good and for the welfare and for the development of mankind rather than using it for other negative purposes. This is how we pray that let every person on this universe be energized to have a greater levels of happiness, health, hygiene, and joy. Friends, allow me to say a few words which really connects me to the great people of Japan. Konnichiwa, Nihon no minasama. Nihon wa ohoku no inspiration wo ataeru kuni desu. Soshite, watashi wa Nihon no jin wo taihen shite imasu. Watashi wa Himalaya no sushin desu. Himalaya wa watashi tachi no shinko to naimen no tsuyosa no simbolo desu. Watashi wa Fuji-san mo onaji you ni aishite shiteimasu. Fuji-san wa Himalaya to onajiku tamashi no chikara ni kachi wo oku Nihon no nagai bunmei no suhai no symbol desu. Kankyo mondai wa jinrui no saidai no kadai desu. Shigen o uyamao kota ga kankyo mondai no kaiketsu ni sunagaru koto wo negate imasu. It means we in India pay great importance to our relationship with the people of, with the land of Mount Fuji-san, and we look forward to a future with a shared vision and with a shared concern to have peace, stability, and a prosperous society. I must begin with a quote from Mr. Masakazu Toyoda, Chairman and CEO of the Institute of Energy Economics, Japan. Well, these are some of the pictures that I had the honor of meeting the great personalities of Japan who are very much respected in India. Mr. Masakazu Toyoda-san says that energy is a fundamental input for economic activities, but Japan has almost no resources and has a very low energy self-sufficiency of only 5%. It is essential to secure stable supplies of energy at reasonable prices for sustainable economic development. Effective and appropriate measures to counter global warming are also required. Not only Japan, but all nations around the world, including emerging Asian economies, are facing these common challenges. We have to address particularly what are these common challenges. And when I'm here to speak about bilateral relations between India and Japan, focused on energy issues, I must tell you the situation regarding energy that is prevailing in my country. As you know, sir, India is the fourth largest energy consumer in the world, fourth largest, after China, United States, and Russia. Our primary energy demand is expected to double by 2030, and thus we may become the energy demand center of the world. When we say that we have Modi-san in Delhi and Abe-san in Tokyo, and that makes two strongest pillars of strategic cooperation and a great future ahead for the good of all, energy forms a very strong foundation to build an edifice of that future cooperation. We, despite having an objective of energy independence through substantially decreasing our crude imports by 2030, becoming increasingly dependent on that. The import of oil and gas has gone up from a level of $87 billion to $157 billion in the last 5 years. And of course, we account for 5.3% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and we are expected to emerge as the third largest emitter by 2015. It's a very grave situation. And our statistics, they show that this year, energy shortages and peak shortages were roughly 8.6% and 9% respectively. But we want to attain a higher GDP growth rate in the next 12th five-year plan. So we need energy supply to grow by a significant 6.5%. How can we achieve that? That is a major question before our planners. The sources that we have, the primary source remains coal and oil. Coal is expected to account for over 50% of the capacity additions in the current plan. The import component of domestic oil is about 76%, and that of gas is 19%. So, we are going for a mix. In India, electricity fuel mix, coal, natural gas, and diesel, which are the mainstays, account for close to 70% of the capacity. In it, large hydro comes in second with 16%, and grid-connected renewable energy, that means wind, solar, small hydro, biomass, etc., accounts for nearly 13% of the fuel mix, with nuclear at over 4.5 GW, 2% makeup of the rest. This is one area where we still have to work for a togetherness, and we still have to convince our friends here that look at our track record in the civil nuclear behavior. Nobody in this world can match that kind of a very, very sustainable and dependable and a trustworthy nuclear civil behavior that India shows. But while the NPT is one issue, I must say that violations of NPT should also be taken into consideration while having a nuclear civil cooperation with any country. So coming back again to the sources, the private sector's contribution to the capacity addition has shown a progressively improving trend during the previous 5 years and accounted for over 35% of the total installed capacity. Our renewable energy program is one of the largest and most ambitious in the world, with the government setting an ambitious target of 15% of renewable energy by 2020 under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. When we come to the Japan-India energy cooperation, we look forward with great hopes. We have been having a lot of discussions and some visits to one of your very successful programs. And one of that impressed me personally was this mandatory program for companies, manufacturers and importers to fulfill the efficiency targets within 3 to 10 years, which is designed to encourage competition and innovation among the companies without increasing market prices. And one of the things that I'm going back home with me is the specific equipment, 29 equipment and materials that are listed here under this category, including passenger cars, including trucks, including electric freezers, including heaters, including printers, and all these 29 things. Apart from that, in the last 3 years, under the Clean Coal for the Earth initiative, the diagnostic activities in India have been, continuously increasing. Clean Coal for the Earth and J Coal has engaged in the project for efficiency and environmental improvement of coal-fired power stations over 3 years, including its preliminary phase. Apart from that, 8 units of 7 power stations are diagnosed. 3 annual workshops have been held to provide Indian stakeholders with updates of relevant Japanese CCTs. And they are having these stations in Unchahar, in Kahalgaon, in Durgapur, in Vijayawada, in Ramagundam, in Wanakbori, and in Badarpur, very close to Delhi. Apart from this, there is a well-established mechanism of India-Japan energy dialogue. We wish that this dialogue is more frequently held and more meaningful and fruitful outcome is achieved through these dialogues. If I can, in a brief, I can mention a brief history of the dialogue. Both Indian and Japanese Prime Ministers agreed in the launch of dialogue in a summit meeting in December 2006. The co-chairman, the successive Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, and Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission held the dialogue 7 times. The co-chairman established the 6 working groups consist by energy efficiency and conservation, renewable energy, electricity, coal, petroleum, and natural gas, and nuclear energy. And when I say that the wonderful and successful summit between Prime Minister Modi-san and Prime Minister Abe-san has created a great enthusiasm amongst both the people, I must mention with respect the contribution of our previous Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, in enhancing and strengthening India-Japan relations in every field, including the strategic ties and in the energy sector. So when we speak of continuing this India-Japan energy cooperation, we are close friends and natural allies with deep historical roots, civilizational roots. You inspire us in many, many ways. You inspire us in patience. You inspire us how never to accept defeat and be always victorious, even in the most critical times, even in the most trying times. It's the Japanese spirit that has inspired Indians even in their freedom struggle. And so, energy is one among the common area of mutual interest where both can work together and complement each other. The trust level, why should we work together? Why should we cooperate with each other? Why should we say that we are soulmates, we have to work together, and the trust level is highest amongst India and Japan? Because the foundation has been led by our ancestors who were there thousands of years before. And the level of faith for each other, the level of trust for each other is something that is incomparable with any other country as far as India and relations with any other country are concerned. That is the reason we must work with the message of Buddha, with the message of Gandhi, with compassion in our hearts and a strength of noble values and virtues given to us by our ancestors for the goodness of mankind and not for any nefarious purpose and not to create war, but to stop all possibilities of confrontation, war, and conflicts. That should be the final aim of our mutual cooperation, and that should be the aim of energy cooperation. As I said, it is one among the common area of mutual interest where we can both work together and complement each other. India and Japan, we have signed agreements on cooperation in the energy and telecom sectors during Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's visit to New Delhi. And this cooperation has aimed to address the dependency by procuring the liquefied natural gas LNG as a substitute jointly, bringing down the procurement cost. Like Chubu Electric Power Company of Japan and Gas Authority of India Limited, GAIL, have joined hands and soon are going to sign a memorandum of understanding in this regard. We have already signed MOUs between Japan's New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, NEDO, and India's Department of Economic Affairs and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Our energy efficiency and conservation front, both these countries have agreed upon to extend their partnership under agreements signed between our Petroleum Conservation Research Association and your Energy Conservation Center. And both the countries have taken good initiatives on the front of renewable energy, like waste to energy, green corridor, and smart grid development space. To reduce greenhouse gas emissions in coal-fired plant, both countries agreed to use clean coal technologies by signing a loan agreement between National Thermal Power Corporation Limited, NTPC, and Japan Bank of International Cooperation, JBIC, for Kudgi supercritical coal-fired power project in Karnataka and Oraiya power project in Uttar Pradesh. New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization. Yeah. And the energy, I think the way what I speak and what they show should synchronize. The way India and Japan's rhythm should also be synchronized. Yeah? Then we walk together better way. So New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization and the Energy and Resources Institute held Japan-India Energy Forum are providing valuable inputs to the bilateral engagement on energy security. Our ONGC, Memorandum of Understanding with Japan's Mitsui & Company for exploration and production of hydrocarbon resources, India and elsewhere, they are also making a big headway. In the recent summit between Modi-san and Abe-san, we were very happy and we recognized with delight that your government has delisted 6 of our space and defense-related entities from your foreign end-user list. And that has made us to look forward to enhanced trade and collaboration in high technology. I must say the chemistry between our Prime Minister and Japanese Prime Minister Abe-san was wonderful. It has given a very strong signal to both the people, and the Indian masses are looking forward with great hope and much more strength and confidence for a shared future. Our Prime Minister Modi-san, he very much appreciated that this fact that Japan's decision to remove several Indian entities from the foreign end users list and our MOU on defense exchanges and our intention to work out an agreement for collaboration on defense technologies reflect the new level of mutual trust and commitment to deepen our strategic partnership in all dimensions. We have also signed a free trade pact in 2011, formerly known as the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Now, here comes a very critical issue and a strategically very, very significant issue. All these 3 days we have been speaking and meeting very important people in Japan. One issue has emerged commonly, and that common thread is maritime security. The maritime security is one of the most strategic and a critical issue between India and Japan. And wherever I had been, we have been pleading and we have been requesting our friends that let us have more focused attention and establish better think tanks jointly run by young Japanese research scholars and young Indian research scholars focusing on maritime issues. Oil exploration is one of the issues that is connected with maritime, and that shows the very significant pathway of our joint path. The second is development of new technologies, thermal plant, power production, and distribution, energy utilization and conservation, then hydro and solar power, very important. We have our friends from Northeast, and there both these energy sources, hydro and solar power, they can not only change the energy scenario in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, but also give enough power to the rest of the northeastern states in India. So much is the potential in just one state that borders China, but has a great hydro and solar energy potential. The other area where we can work together is power from bio and industrial waste. When we speak of India-Japan cooperation, after the successful summits, I can use the word without any hesitation that sky is the limit. Sky is the limit. And our march together seems to be now unstoppable by any hurdle. It is very important to hold the India-Japan energy dialogues annually and to create a very well-charted pathway for achieving solid goals. The issues of energy security and global environment are high priority challenges requiring continuous and effective action. Friends, cooperation in upstream development of petroleum and natural gas should be further enhanced. We would also like to further promote industrial cooperation to expand bilateral energy cooperation on a commercial basis. Both the countries have realized the need to cooperate in enhancing the safety of nuclear power plants. There is no denying of the fact. This should be our top priority. And who else but Japan can help India to work in this direction in a much more serious way. I would also like to say that pushing the dialogues in civil nuclear energy cooperation on a faster track by reaffirming the importance of early conclusion of the negotiations of an agreement for cooperation in peaceful uses of nuclear energy. We would very much like to have more talks about it, more discussions about it, convince our friends here, and let us work together. You can augment your support for India's coal sector endeavor through implementation of coal washery technology, promotion of high efficiency use of low rank coal. We can also leverage upon the strong Japanese solar manufacturing capacity, given its huge solar potential and ambitious plans to scale up solar power. Japanese players can look at setting up manufacturing facilities in India and take advantage of the low cost of manufacturing in the country. We invite you. In the words of Prime Minister Modi-san, come and make in India and make this world much more stable, much more secure, much more prosperous. Another promising energy source that could be tapped in is methane hydrate, often called inflammable ice. Japan has conducted first offshore production test. Its commercialization would help countries like India and Japan that are heavily dependent on gas imports. Model business projects that have been implemented by both sides need to further expanded and strengthened. I must say, this is an area where we can become the architect of a great, peaceful, stable, and prosperous future. It's the togetherness of India and Japan. Walk together, dream together, work together, achieve together. Come to India, make in India. If we say that India and Japan are soulmates, if we say that the trust level between India and Japan is the highest in the world, if we say that both the people have greatest of respect and they honor age-old shared values of civilization, then what stops us to work together? What stops you to come to India and make this planet much, much more happier one? That has been the message of the ancient civilization of India, and that has been the message of the ancient civilization of Japan. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much, Ito-san. And I'm really very delighted to hear some of your out-of-box suggestions. Thank you very much for that. You know what I mean. It's quite natural that if we say that we come from the land of Buddha and Gandhi, we should be the very first to take a lead and say, no, we are not going to in any way increase the danger of nuclear proliferation. But see the situation of India. We are surrounded by two nuclear powers. We have had wars with both the countries. We are having boundary disputes with both the countries, serious boundary disputes. And in spite of that, it is India's great virtuous diplomacy that believes still in the initiatives for peace with both the countries. While we continue doing that, we have to protect 1 billion plus people and a land which has been continuously attacked incessantly by barbarians across the border since last 1,000 years. How do we do that? India is the biggest victim of terrorism today on this earth. Biggest victim. The security of our people and securing our borders is one of the top priorities for any government, whichever party comes to power. And in spite of that, in spite of the gravest and the most serious provocations from across the borders, India has declared a no first use of nuclear thing. Nobody would do that. It needs a lot of guts and the power of your conscience and the power of Buddha and a great commitment to peace that we have done that. So, with this background, our friends understand us. And our friends understand that in the entire Asia-Pacific region, it is the presence of India that is most wanted and demanded, because the presence of India is a pain reliever, if I may use the word. It makes people more comfortable, more at ease. It doesn't make them tense. I was at the Shangri-La dialogue where I had an opportunity to meet briefly Prime Minister Abe-san. The entire atmosphere was a buzz. You have delayed your presence in this region. Our honorable, former diplomat, a diplomat is never a former diplomat. He understands this position. I think a part of answer he would also like to address. So they need And whenever there is a close cooperation between India and Japan, the democratic axis, it increases the hopes for peace. It increases in the entire region. You know what I mean by that. So please don't go on the technicalities. The technical documents, the signatories to the technical documents and those papers have become the biggest violators of those agreements and things. So would you prefer a person who signs and then violates, or the person whom you have trusted for the last 2,000 years and you understand that they are not going to do this? Never. It is not in our blood, it is not in our genes. That is the only plea that we can make with our friends. So trustworthiness. And the thing is about the maritime security and ceilings, we have very clearly stated our stand, believing in the Bali principle, no first use, and then no use of threat, of any use of force, and no use of actual force, believing in the law of the seas. These are the basic principles on which we would like to strengthen our cooperation on maritime sector and energy security. So I think it is very good that we are now talking these issues which we were even hesitant to talk and discuss on the table before. So we will find a path. We will find a way out. And our dependency on oil import will increase. Securing the ceilings, it's a very important issue. And not just for two of us, but for all the reason in the Strait of Malacca, and that reason it requires a lot of coordination. And I must tell that in the recent visit of President Xi Jinping to India, India has been invited to SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is also energy based. I mean, if we are there, then the basic issue, the principal issue would be energy. So, taking a cue from that, if we can have a India, Russia, China dialogue, if we can have a joint exercises, why not a joint India, China, Japan dialogue? And even the exercises we can hold together to create a sense of confidence, to increase the mutuality. And no two nations, when we come together, have a reflection on our relationship with third country. We work together. I think if I may request Pawanji to address some this issue, or can the mic be given to him?
I think Senator Vijay has answered the questions, but essential point I want to make, Shoichi-san, is that we support non-proliferation. We did not sign initially the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, not because we did not believe in non-proliferation, but because we believed it was discriminatory. It was a matter of principle. I think India must be one of the only countries which demonstrated its ability to explode a nuclear weapon in 1974 and voluntarily then decided not to go become a nuclear weapons power. Our track record on non-proliferation has been exceptional. It has been overt, visible, and it has received endorsement from countries which very closely monitor how countries behave in this regard. And there are many countries which have, after signing the non-proliferation treaty, I think in some manner, broken some of its protocols. Now, the question is that we may not have signed the NPT, but our track record on non-proliferation is good, and we need civil nuclear energy for the needs of our people. You yourself in your question have spelled out very clearly that there is a gap between demand and supply. Oil, we are not very richly endowed in fossil fuels. We have to import. The oil bill is almost 75% of our import bill. Nuclear energy is an area that can fill the gap and provide to the millions upon millions of Indians who need energy. We strongly believe in the safety of nuclear plants. Today, our plea to the world, including to Japan, is that after India and the United States signed the Civil Nuclear Energy Agreement, it was a recognition globally by the nuclear suppliers group, by the nuclear missile technology regime, that India's record on non-proliferation is excellent. It can be a trusted country for dual-use technology and high-end technology, which can be used for civil nuclear energy purposes. And in this context, we make a plea to Japan to be our partner in this area based on this track record. On the question of sea lanes, again, Senator Vijay has explained. But I fully agree with you that there is a need for Japan and India to become partners in ensuring their safety. Already, the naval exercises in Malabar, I think US, Japan, and India trilaterally are now partners in these naval exercises. We have no objection to widening that multilateral framework, as you put it. We can include other countries, including Australia. But the point is that this collaboration needs to strengthen, it needs to be institutionalized, and it needs to be carried out regularly. The real issue, if I may raise a counter issue to you, Japan is a global power with deep interests in security of energy resources, is the instability in the Middle East itself. Not only in the sea lanes, but in the Middle East itself. And there again, India and Japan have together a role to play, and that is something that we need to discuss within the new, upgraded strategic framework that we have agreed upon during the visit of Prime Minister Modi and in his discussions with Prime Minister Abe. Thank you.
I think I will again ask Mr. Pawan Verma to part, but like he said earlier, we find it very discriminatory. There is the liability laws which we find in the European and the Western countries are very, very different than what they expect us to do. And we have had serious accidents where the weaknesses in our liability laws has caused a lot of damage to a vast number of our people. But being from direct from the Foreign Service and now an Honorable Member of Parliament, I think Pawan can address this in a much more straightforward manner.
Just to add to what Senator Vijay has said, my answer to you, sir, is very brief. We do indeed need to look at the nuclear liability law again. Sir, we are a democracy. And when we signed the agreement with America, there were many political parties that were opposing the agreement, including, if I may say so, today's ruling party, the Bharatiya Janata Party. As a result, in order to create a national consensus for a very important agreement, we insisted on a liability law because of our past experience, particularly if you may recall what happened with Union Carbide in Bhopal, which was a tragedy of tremendous proportions and from which the perpetrator of that tragedy walked away without any liabilities to face. So there is a sensitivity in our country. However, let me just answer briefly to your question. We need to look at the nuclear liability law again and to see how it can be revised in a manner which meets some of our basic needs, but is not an obstacle and impediment to those who wish to collaborate with us in the field of nuclear energy.
May I clarify one thing? We belong to various parties, and we are here at the invitation of Sasakawa Foundation. We are speaking in our own capacities. We are not speaking for Government of India. And whatever we say should not be taken as Indian government is speaking. So this is that bottom line on which we are speaking. So kindly keep that in your mind. Yeah, thank you. I will just say one thing. We believe that there should not be any such kind of a situation where danger to the lives of millions and millions of people hang on our head like a sword. We would like the entire planet be denuclearized. But let everyone decide it, and let us find a different pathway. It should not be for smaller countries or for the emerging countries that some of the superpowers tell us you do this and you don't do that. It should be non-discriminatory. We would very much like your investment to come. Every country would like. Japan wants economic progress. Hence, they started nuclear fast breeders and nuclear energy plants. That's the reason they wanted. They wanted your people to be happy, to get energy, and to be prosperous. But the liability has to be fixed in a very just and fair manner. As my colleague said, that we have had an accident in Bhopal and nothing happened. So we are very concerned about it. We know a little bit what is going on in Japan, but we will always be siding with the people. The people's interest will always be supreme, and no other interest should overpower or overwhelm any decision in this regard. That is the only answer.